Over the past few years, it's become clear that things are falling apart. And one of the lenses that we analyze the way it's falling apart, what it means, is through polarization. We can see it in social media. We can see it in the changing dynamics of the parties. But how did we get to where we're at and what comes next? We're gonna have a great conversation. I'm so excited. Ezra Klein in studio, founder of Vox, host of your podcast, but also author of Why We're Polarized. And so I'm hoping to learn something. Before we get to the why though, like I said in the intro, polarization, the fact that we have these tribes that have developed, it can mean a lot of different things. So when you say that we're polarized, what way are you using that term?
Yeah, I really
How are you measuring it?
I appreciate you asking this because we use the word polarized really poorly and imprecisely, and often it just means in Washington it's like bad or people are arguing. We've always had arguments or we're mean. No, what I mean is simply this. We are separating out into two poles. Things are sorted across two poles. They're not split between them. And in particular, what I am talking about here is party polarization. How much our demographics, our ideologies, our disputes layer on top of party. At different times in American politics, we have been very, very, very divided. But those divisions have not mapped onto parties. So take the Civil Rights Act itself, which was a very bipartisan bill. It had a higher proportion of Republicans in Congress vote for it than Democrats, which is an amazing thing to think, right? That you had something that divisive in the society that had so little actual party division, even as it was tearing the country apart in its own ways. It is that moment actually that begins the resorting of the parties because they had been split very much by racial opinions. And so now we have a tremendous amount of our divisions layering on top of our actual party system, which turns American politics from a mechanism of, when it's doing it well, compromise, and doing it poorly, suppression, which I think we should talk about, to a mechanism of conflict escalation, because it takes conflicts that are happening in the country and then escalates them into political conflict as well.
So before we started this interview, we were talking a little bit about the impeachment trial that's going on, and we had, the Republican senators almost universally were 100% supportive of Trump, even where there were a few sort of outliers. It was only in maybe we should have witnesses. Do you think that that is the product of this sort of polarization, that they need Trump to support them in case of some sort of like primary challenge, but also they have no real reason to believe that their base is going to turn on them for not being interested in what actually happened with the Ukraine scandal? And
absolutely, and it's more than that, right? That if they came together with the Democrats and said, you know what Donald Trump did was wrong. There are ways that we permit people to act in elections, and this goes beyond that. They know, or they at least believe they know, that by admitting that, and they all supported Donald Trump and voted with him and voted for him, that it would be very, very bad for the Republican Party in the next election. It would be a reaping. And so they don't have an incentive to hold the president accountable. Look, when you go back to Watergate, Richard Nixon, he's not impeached. He's not impeached even by the House. There isn't a vote. What happens is the House Republican leader and two Republican senators, Barry Goldwater and John Hodges, I think it was, they go to Nixon and they say, your party is not going to stay with you here. Like, if this goes to a vote, you will lose, and you will lose because Republicans, by the way, again, including the Republican House leader, will vote against you.
It's amazing.
And that's how Nixon goes down. If it happened today, if Watergate happened today, does anybody think he wouldn't survive? And if he wouldn't survive, right, that's part of the deep American mythology that our political system is self-correcting. If Richard Nixon would survive today, so we actually don't have this capacity to be self-correcting in the face of political corruption, what does that actually say about how our political system is working, or much more to the point, not working? The big point of the book is that polarization itself isn't a problem. It's polarization interacting with a political system that is not designed to work amidst polarization that creates big problems.
And especially a system that I think a lot of people have had it made very clear for them over the past few years, how much of the way our system worked was not codified in the Constitution or even in federal regulations, laws, all of that. It was very norm and tradition based, and those are only as durable as the people surrounding them allow them to be. And a lot of that has fallen by the wayside.
And it was wrong. I mean, I admire the founding fathers' wisdom in a lot of different dimensions, but they built a system that they did not believe would have political parties. This is the founding structural problem. They didn't want it. They didn't want them. Then they, of course, created a couple. So they reversed on that very quickly. And one thing you see in that is that while people don't like political parties, we don't like them now, we didn't like them then. If you go back to Washington's farewell address, he talks about the dangers of political parties in a speech that is very much one political party attacking another political party. People don't want them, but they are natural parts of systems that are designed the way ours are designed. And so in other places where you have a system that is okay working with them, a political party wins power and that gives them the capacity to govern. What our system does is expect there isn't going to be political parties. So even when a group wins power, they often don't have the capacity to govern because there isn't an expectation that you would have divided government between branches in the way we do. The branches might compete with each other, but you wouldn't have parties cooperating across branches or competing across branches. That's what you see here. Impeachment is meant to be the branches holding each other accountable. Instead, what you have is the Republican Party has a White House and they have the Senate. They are cooperating across those branches of government as opposed to Congress, of which the Senate is of course part, working to hold in an checking ambition way, working to hold the president accountable.
So I want to talk to you a little bit about the system because we have this interesting distribution of power right now where the branch of government, the sub branch that is the most sort of explicitly Democratic, run by popular vote now, all that sort of thing, is currently held by the Democrats. But the White House, the Senate, and because of the White House and the Senate, the Supreme Court, the ones that have sort of baked into the system inequity in a lot of different ways are held by Republicans. So how does that interact with some of the other things that you're talking about in this book when a greater and greater percentage of the population is living in fewer and fewer states, and that is, that's affecting the distribution of power in the Senate and with the Electoral College in for the presidency as well?
Poorly. So I want to push on one thing, which is the House is not popular vote. The House is gerrymandering, it's geography, and if Democrats had won the popular vote there by +1 or +2 in 2018, they would not have the gavel. So we're in a situation where it is entirely possible for Democrats to win the popular vote at the House, at the Senate, and the White House level, not win majority power in or just power in any of them. And because of that, the Supreme Court, of course. So right now, Mitch McConnell, Republicans won fewer votes over the past 3 Senate cycles, and Democrats, they've got the gavel there. They won, of course, 3 million fewer votes for the White House, and because of that, they nevertheless got the White House, and they have the Supreme Court. This is a way
because of those others.
This is a way the parties are structurally different, and I think it's undernoticed. Republicans have a path to power that is built on electoral popular vote minorities, and Democrats only have a path to power that requires not just them to get a majority, but a pretty big majority. There's a new study on the Electoral College. It shows, I find this actually a little terrifying, Republicans should be expected to win 65% of presidential elections in which Democrats narrowly win the popular vote. 65%. And so we're in a system right now where Democrats have to win center-right voters, just however you define them, voters who are just like a little bit to the right of the median voter, because that is the only way for them to win enough geographic power to win the way our system offers power. Republicans are able to run the strategy they're running only because they can run it based on minorities of the popular vote. So one of my arguments in the book is that democracy itself is disciplining. It forces you to speak to a wider percentage of the population, forces you to take seriously what people want and what they need. Democrats still have to do that. Republicans increasingly do not. And one of the ways they're responding to that is turning against democracy itself. There are a lot of Republican efforts at state levels and even at national levels, a lot of Supreme Court decisions that are meant to actually change who is able to vote, what power centers are able to express themselves. That's pretty dangerous when the locus of competition becomes not who has a more appealing agenda to most people, but actually who has the power to decide who is going to vote and how much their votes are going to count.
So I want to turn now to, I mean, I don't want to spoil everything, but
There's a huge twist ending in this book.
Yeah, exactly.
Very exciting.
But I do want to let people know where they can see where your book tour is going soon. So I believe we have a graphic we can bring up showing some of the upcoming cities. You're in February, it's February right now. You're in LA right now, but you're also gonna be traveling to San Francisco, and you can see there. Feel free to pause this on YouTube, and you can see a number of different locations you're gonna be traveling around. Fascinating book, and I hope that Democratic leadership takes some of the lessons seriously.
Thank you very much.
We're in a special time, a dark time. But thank you, Ezra. Great to have you here. Thanks for watching The Damage Report. What if you could protect yourself on the internet for the price of a cup of coffee a month? Well, if you head to nordvpn.com/TYT, you'll be able to connect up to 6 devices to NordVPN's military-grade encryption for $349 a month. If you go now, they'll even throw in a month for free. Go now.